Hi.
Hi, how are you?
Good. Under the circumstances.
Have you been watching the hearings?
I have. I actually, it's funny. At the end of yesterday, I thought she really summed it up well at the end of the hearing. She really made clear both what the stakes are, about this Supreme Court appointment, which obviously translates to the election, particularly around, healthcare and reproductive healthcare specifically. But then, and also that what I loved was how she ended with basically, making the point about her record, Barrett's record being very clear, crystal clear. So let's not pretend that we don't know, what her views are, or how she's going to approach the cases. And so I kind of felt like, okay, that was a good, wrap up yesterday. And then, like I said, I didn't watch the whole day today, but I did tune in for her at the end. And I thought she did a great, kind of wrap up again. It just sort of, she summarized where we were, what her views are on what Barrett's views are, kind of eliciting what her views are by what she wouldn't say, on the facts, particularly around climate change, which I know is a big issue that you all have been focused on.
Well, what was great about what Senator Harris said about climate change today was she went through this litany of questions and then it had obvious answers and then said about climate change, and she gave this long answer, but I can't litigate that now. I don't know. And she said there's such a debate going on, and Senator Harris said, "Oh, so you admit it's debatable."
She was talking about if smoking was bad for your health and if that caused cancer, and sort of non-debatable scientific facts, as is climate change. And you could see that she couldn't figure out where she was going with the question, and it kind of unnerved her.
It's open to debate.
Then she went back to her pat answer and said, I can't comment on something that's too controversial. But it was really, I thought it really highlighted.
Well, the senator said, so you admit that it's up for debate, and she was stuck. She didn't say, she suggested it was a debatable proposition, as opposed to a total non-starter, which is a Republican position. But there is no climate change. So the fact that she got an admission that it's debatable at the very least was a good stinger.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing that she refused to, I think, over the course of the 2 days of questioning, to admit things that are basic facts. I mean, or things that should be beyond dispute, like whether if a president loses an election, there should be a peaceful transfer of power, whether there's actually discrimination in voting today. And to your point about climate, whether like the climate crisis is real or a debatable point. I mean, it just, it's pretty shocking and appalling. And it, to my point about just kind of feeling like my blood boiling, it really is, this is who these folks are. And this is like why this election is so important, because it is whoever wins these elections is who gets to choose who gets to sit on the Supreme Court. So I don't know, how are you all feeling in the midst of the most important election of our lifetime? At least that's certainly what I've been, telling people, because I honestly believe it's true. But how are you guys feeling about everything?
I said to Tracy the other day that every day I wake up, I've only got one problem in my life: Trump. I have no problems. Nothing else is troubling me. It's just that it's so huge. The stakes are tremendous, and he's got all the pieces in place to jump right into it. He can hit the ground running if he gets reelected, and the damage will be mind blowing.
I think it's such an important election, and I'm so energized by seeing how many early voters are turning up, because I just think that it's really hitting home for everyone all over the place, and seeing those lines of people knowing that they're worried about their health and their safety, lining up to cast their votes. So it makes me feel very hopeful, because you can see just how many people are getting energized by this.
The thing that makes me feel hopeful is that not only would we elect a potted plant against Donald Trump, but we have two excellent candidates, really a man who has earned his reputation as a diplomat and a statesman, and someone who cares about people and has compassion and has long-range vision. And regardless of the fact that he might be a little older, he can see way into the future and sees his role in that. and the senator who's amazing and was great in the debate the other night, and a powerful prosecutor, and I think it could prosecute the case for America for the change we need.
Well, what both of you were saying. One about just people showing up, because I will say, we've certainly had conversations with people over the course of this election about why their vote matters, and hearkening back to 2016 when we lost by 80,000 votes, and in some precincts where that kind of helped to swing the election, literally like lost by like 2 votes, like as in 1-2, and but today, you're right, Tracy, we're seeing so many people who are lining up, and it's so important. Like, it's awful that people are having to stand in line for 5, 6, 7, 12 hours. I think I saw in one place. It's awful that people are having to stand in line that long, but the fact that people are persevering and they are literally like, you're not going to, I will move mountains to make sure I can cast my vote in this election. I think that that's really exciting to see, and it's going to be needed because literally every vote is still going to count. We need people to not be paying attention to the polls and all of that. We just need people to get out and vote as early as possible. So I love that you're seeing that and feeling inspired. I was seeing yesterday in Texas, the first day of early voting in 2016, 68,000 people turned up. Yesterday, the first day, 128,000 people turned out, and so many people are requesting absentee ballots. So I think this is really important. But Michael, to your point, what's also really important, I think, is for people to feel like they're not just voting against Trump, they're voting for something. And that's the other thing, is I think that with, Joe and Kamala really putting out a, bold progressive agenda on a number of issues that matter to people, I think people are also motivated by what they're voting for, to your point, and the leadership that they're voting for, not just who they're voting against. And I think that's going to be critical for us to actually get the numbers that we need for this to be a decisive victory.
Exactly.
Yeah, it has to be pretty strong.
Did you want to ask about?
The thing that obviously concerns me, and that I want people to understand and think about, is Joe Biden's position on healthcare and on protecting those with pre-existing conditions, and their families, and just what kind of destruction and just getting rid of the ACA. What a disaster that would be, and how.
Yeah, I also have a pre-existing condition. I actually have lupus, and on the issue of healthcare, this election could not be clearer, because literally the Trump administration is in the Supreme Court right now trying to strike down the Affordable Care Act, including its protections for pre-existing conditions, in the middle of a pandemic. Like, the hearing on their case is the week after Election Day. And to your point about the stakes, 23 million Americans got health care because of the Affordable Care Act. And that doesn't include people who now need it, who've lost their jobs and employer-based health care because of the pandemic. And more than 100 million people with pre-existing conditions, not to mention the 7 million people who now have contracted COVID, for whom this will be considered a pre-existing condition, potentially. And so the thing is that they want to get rid of it. They have no plan, and they have certainly had 4 years to articulate one, and they have not done that. And in fact, Republican governors in the states have refused to even expand Medicaid under the Affordable Care Act, so that they're leaving people uncovered, even who they could get covered. And so Kamala and Joe are, I think the most important thing is that both of them believe that healthcare is a right, not a privilege. And that's their starting point. Like, their starting point is it's a right, not a privilege. And so for them, the goal is to get everybody covered, to cover pre-existing conditions. They'll preserve the ACA. They're going to build on it. They're going to bring down deductibles, bring down, premiums and prescription costs, expand community health centers. And then, so increasing access, right? But the other thing that, certainly for me personally, taking my personal relationship out of the equation, is, I've been a civil rights advocate in my career, and they're talking about not just access to healthcare and increasing access to healthcare, but also working toward health equity, because there are so many inequities in our healthcare system in terms of racial inequities and exactly, and we're seeing that. And so I just think that their whole approach couldn't be more different than the current administration. But it's, again, to your point, it's not just about getting us to some kind of normal behavior around healthcare. They actually are trying to advance this issue and, really make it better for everyone.
Well, we need that, and this is exactly the time that we need it more than ever.
I love the idea of saving the ACA and building upon it.
Right.
Exactly. And that's exactly what they're trying to do. They want to save it, and they want to be able to build on it. I mean, you all have been such, going from acting to being such, powerful kind of world changing activists around, the health issues as well as the environment. I'm curious sort of about how you all have had a journey to that place, because I think in this election, so many people are finding their voices and finding their activism. And so I'm curious about, your own journey in that respect. And also just, it's not like you don't have other things going on in your own lives, that you've decided to really get out there and be a voice for this election and for Joe and Kamala. I'd love to hear more about that. And I'm sure others would be inspired by your own journey.
Well, you say that there's a lot of other things going on, but right now, for both of us, and I think for really every other American, this is the most important, the most crucial. We will drop anything for this purpose. And so we're just getting out there. We're talking to family. We're talking to friends. We're on social media. We're just trying to get out the word in every way we can for them, and also for the other races, the other Senate races going on. I mean, we've put a lot of support behind Jamie Harrison, and there are just so many other races too that just deserve all of this attention and support. And that's been a passion of ours.
Everybody just does this, that we win.
Everybody does that.
Everybody does that, we win.
Well, I am so glad that you mentioned about the other races, because I try to talk about that too, which is, no matter what your issue is that you're passionate about, this is also bigger than Kamala and Joe's, you know what I mean? The top of the ticket. And one, they need to have a Congress that they can work with, right? To your point, Tracy, about the Senate races. And so we need to pay attention to those. But then also, just even on the issue of healthcare, as we were talking about, issues play out at the state level. And so it matters who the governor is. It matters who, the Secretary of State is. We were talking about voting rights, or who the Attorney General is. And so focusing up and down the ballot is really important. I think that, along with just voting early and people getting out there early, like voting up and down the ticket and voting early, are probably, two of the most important things on that front that people can be doing. So I'm glad that in your own advocacy and your work in the cycle that you all are, focused on other races as well. I mean, could you imagine if we could not only evict Donald Trump, but we could actually evict Lindsey Graham as well? Because you mentioned Jamie Harrison, who's such an incredible, leader and candidate. And that race is actually one that, has really tightened up and with some real push to make a difference.
More and more in the last days. It seems like it's building, and it feels like it's, it's something that could definitely come to fruition.
He's an impressive guy, Jamie Harrison.
He is, and he's been, that's his hometown. He's, born and raised there, but he also has just had a record of service and leadership. He's also just a wonderful person. I got to meet him during the 2016 cycle, is where I first met him. Working on the 2016 presidential campaign, and he's a really good guy too. So we're all kind of cheering him on and hoping that'll be a success as well.
I wanted to ask you about, you had mentioned earlier about climate change and how it's just becoming more and more, it's just apparent every day something else is happening that makes it more apparent. And obviously under this current administration, it's just gotten worse and worse and worse, Paris Agreement. And so I mean, it's inspiring to think about a Biden-Harris administration and how they will tackle it. And so I would just love to hear a little bit about how you can envision them putting us back on track.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the most fundamental thing is to start with going back to the science. I don't know if you know what our mom was a scientist, so we were like raised in a family that appreciated science. And I remember when Kamala was first elected to the Senate, and she went in 26, she was elected in 2016, that she was talking about how one of her early hearings that she participated in, where it was like the whole purpose was to debate whether or not science should be the basis of public policy. And so getting back to the science is sort of first and foremost, for Joe and Kamala. And I think the other piece of it is, to your point, both of your point, talking about the hearing today and, this nomination process, is being clear that this is not a debatable point. It's an existential threat to who we are as human beings, and making it a real priority. And so what they've talked about, and I should just tell you that Joe actually sponsored one of the first ever climate bills in the Senate. So this is something he's had a long history with. It's certainly something you can see from Kamala's advocacy that is important to her. So this will be a top priority. But specifically on day one, what they've talked about is that they're going to sign executive orders, that Joe would sign executive orders that would restore so many of the environmental regulations that have been gutted by the Trump administration. Like they went in and basically undid everything that President Obama did. And so they would on day one, restore those, and then also rejoin the Paris Climate Agreement. But then in the first 100 days, because this is a priority for them, they are going to put forward a plan for 100% clean energy economy that would, in the process of moving us to a clean energy economy, also create millions of good paying jobs. They're talking about investing more in research and innovation, in building a more resilient infrastructure where, we have a more efficient power grid, that we have more charging stations for electric cars. And I mean, really on every single dimension, they're talking about, moving, and maybe this is the big takeaway, moving faster and farther than we ever have, because they know time is running out. And these last 4 years for us have been, a missed opportunity. We just haven't done the things that need to be done. And so we've got to make up for that time and push even further.
The thing about infrastructure that's really important, and Joe Biden talks about it a lot, but that it's not binary. It's like if we can figure out a way to incorporate these new technologies and these new ways to use battery powered energy and all these alternate resources, we can use that to build the infrastructure we always talked about. I mean, people always talk about we have to rebuild the infrastructure, and they picture bridges and buildings, and it's not. It's about that fuel and energy and communications and new resources.
So that's exactly right, and it is an expanded understanding of that, because you're right. We have a whole bunch of basic infrastructure needs that also have been neglected over these last 4 years. They talked for 4 years about infrastructure week is coming, infrastructure week is coming. It's never come, and we have 20 days left, and I don't think it's going to come. You're right. It goes beyond that basic infrastructure. What is your plan for, we've been asking and talking to people about, please make your plan to vote, because things happen, right? You get busy, you can't get off work, you have a kid who breaks their leg, things happen. Telling people, make your plan, vote early, go to iwillvote.com to be, able to figure out what all the rules are in your locality when early voting starts, how to get your vote by mail ballot, where you can turn it in, how to turn it in, all those things. Have you guys figured out your plan yet?
We have. We're going with our 2 daughters who are here with us, and we're going to vote early, in person early.
Yeah. Oh, that's so great.
Yeah, that's good.
You are gonna actually go to the
it just feels like it's the right thing for us to do.
So I was born in Canada. I became an American citizen in 1998, and so voting is one of the. I never voted in Canada. I was never old enough when I left Canada to come to the States. So my vote as an American is really important to me, and I when I go into that booth, the sacred place, and
And he wears the sticker for the rest
I
of the
say-
week.
the first time I voted in the presidential election, I had a T-shirt that said "Barack to the future."
Oh my God, that's amazing. That's so good. How old are your daughters? Will this be their first time going?
We have one it's her first time.
She's
So
voted.
she's not going to be here, so she's got to do absentee.
She did that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but I mean, she can't come with us in
Yeah.
person, and our daughters are 25-year-old twins.
Well, it's so great to be able to do it as a family. My daughter is now across the country, so we won't be able to go in person together. But we have done that on many occasions. And if there was ever an election to want to, kind of turn out in person, and then if you can do it as a family, it would be this one for so many reasons. For so many reasons.
And we're voting in New York, and so let's say New York is a given. We won that. We don't. But every vote counts. Every vote counts, no matter where you are. It's one more affirmation, and one more human expressing a desire for change.
Yeah, I'm just so glad. We have to keep telling everybody that so many times, and I understand where it comes from. People think their vote's not going to matter, or they think, oh, they've got this, they're looking at the polls and they're thinking, oh, they're fine. And it's just one, every vote will actually count, see 2016. But two, it is far from over, it is like 20 days. A lot can happen in 20 days. We also see the efforts that are being made, around voter suppression. And we have to account for all of that and show up in overwhelming numbers. And so you just keep telling people that, everyone and keep using your voice to really encourage people that it's going to matter, and that, they absolutely have power and should use it.
Yes, exactly.
One of the things that I was surprised to learn was that in a typical election year, there are 92 million people who are eligible to vote who don't actually vote. So there's a lot of, folks who are able to vote who don't end up going and doing it. And this is one of those years where we really cannot have anyone sitting on the sidelines. I know we're going to be running out of time, and I can't keep you forever. So I do want to ask you one other question, which is, who will you be thinking of when you go in and cast your vote this year?
I mean, for me, I will be, that's a hard one, because I'll be thinking of really my kids and the kids that they will have eventually, and just trying to leave a world in a better place than where it is now. And so that's really where my thoughts and prayers are going to be.
I was thinking about my daughters. I think my son too, but our daughters. After the last election in 16, I went in and my daughters went to bed thinking that there was going to be a woman president of the United States, and they woke up and then it didn't happen.
Mm.
They were devastated, and that was a real tough morning. And they would be as devastated now. They're older and they understand more, but it would be just as devastating now if it didn't happen because of climate change, because of what's at stake, women's rights, everything. It's really important. So when you're a parent, it's hard to think of any in terms of your kids.
And then selfishly, me.
Yeah.
That's true. That's very true. Well, and I was one of those people who obviously woke up on the next morning in 2016 devastated for so many reasons. But we do have an opportunity to elect our first Madam Vice President this time around too. Yeah. So that is another wonderful future forward-looking moment of opportunity for the United States of America for us to take that step forward, hopefully this time in this election. So I just appreciate you both so much. I got lucky to get both of you, not just one of you, both of you wonderful people and activists. And thank you so much for the work that you all are doing in our world, and in addition to this election. And I guess the one last thing that I'm going to do for the people who are watching our conversation is to ask them to join you and Tracy and me in this campaign by texting WIN, WIN, to 30330, texting WIN to 30330 to join the campaign and help us bring this thing home. So anyway, thank you so much, Michael and Tracy, for taking the time today.
And vote.